Good evening. Tonight on 8 o'clock, we are focusing on what's now come to India's national capital. Bulldozer justice, or should I say, injustice. Here's the problem. Who's the judge and who's the jury? As we see bulldozers in different states tearing down what are allegedly illegal encroachments. But there's been no verdict, there've been no notices issued. And it targets communities. And the real problem is that here, it's not about just Hindus and Muslims. It's about the poorest of the poor. People whose dreams, hopes and livelihoods are gone in just a few moments with this bulldozer justice. Are we bulldozing democracy? Here are the top headlines at 8 o'clock tonight. Bulldozing injustice now in India's capital. On Sunday, communal clashes. On Wednesday, the bulldozers roll out in the same area. 9 bulldozers demolish homes and livelihood. The Supreme Court orders a stay, but bulldozers continue to roll on for 2 hours. The Supreme Court will now hear this case tomorrow. Homes, small shops, carts are all razed despite a stay by the Supreme Court. Defying law, not one notice is issued to any of these residents, not one warning is given. We look at our special focus on bulldozing homes, livelihoods and dreams. So today, as the bulldozers rolled out, only one opposition leader, 74-year-old left leader Brinda Karat, appeared to stand in front of the bulldozers with the court orders. Not one opposition leader showed up, though they had press conferences and tweets. The Deputy Chief Minister says, bulldoze the BJP headquarters, riots will stop. The Home Minister summons Delhi BJP leaders. In other news, as fighting in eastern Ukraine intensifies as we near 2 months of the war, NDTV reports from the Ukraine-Belarus border. An Olympic training center here, which produced Ukraine's star athletes, is now bombed out. Well, now strategist Prashant Kishor makes his presentation to the 2 Congress chief ministers, Ashok Gehlot and Bhupesh Baghel in Delhi. Gehlot says Prashant Kishor is now a brand in the country, a clear indication that he's soon going to be part of the Congress. The decision on what his role will be in 72 hours. But Rahul Gandhi isn't present at any of these meetings. The Prime Minister and the World Health Organization chief in Gujarat as a Centre for Traditional Medicine focus is done. The Prime Minister gives Dr. Tedros a Gujarati name, Tulsi Bhai. He also points out the success of India-made vaccines. This as WHO has currently suspended the manufacturing and use of Covaxin for the UN. It's mandatory. Masks are back in Delhi as cases rise, crossing 1,000. Schools, however, will stay open, decided the Lieutenant Governor and Chief Minister at a meeting today. Mumbai COVID cases near 100. That's the highest since March the 2nd. Delhi's over 1,000 cases in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, IPL, the Delhi team has 6 cases today, but the match will go on. The New Zealand wicketkeeper is positive. That's the latest on COVID. So let's go across live to an area in Delhi which most of India wouldn't even have heard of just a few days ago. But we saw communal clashes breaking out here this Sunday for the first time. And today, Wednesday, the bulldozers rolled out. Speaking to me now live are Akshay and Sukirti from there. First, let's just look at what is really the happenings of today in India's capital, with the Supreme Court ordering a stay, yet bulldozers rolling on.
A morning of fast-paced dramatic events with the Chief Justice of India, no less, intervening to stop this.
First of all, we would like to show what exactly is happening in this area of Jahangirpuri. This is the exact spot from where the clashes started on Saturday. You can see the bulldozer already removing encroachment.
It appeared to begin with the BJP calling for bulldozers after communal clashes in what is by now a familiar playbook. This time in North Delhi's Jahangirpuri. On Tuesday night at 10, the Delhi BJP chief tweeted, asking the municipality which the party controls to demolish the properties of stone pelters in last Saturday's violence. This morning at 10, the North Delhi municipality rolled in bulldozers and began demolishing illegal structures on public road. However, the BJP mayor claims this was to clear the illegal encroachments, that this was routine and has the support of people. Elections to the municipality are due.
अभी तो हम जितनी भी पब्लिक लैंड के ऊपर जो कबाड़ियों ने कब्जा कर रखा था, अभी तो हम खाली वही क्लियर कर रहे हैं और आप ये देखें कि यहाँ के लोग काफी खुश हैं और हमारी सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं.
North Delhi Municipal Corporation called the demolition clearing of encroachment on public road. However, served no notice to the shopkeepers or the residents, which is a legal requirement before any demolitions drive.
Certain residents have come out here and they are fairly angry as far as the demolition is concerned. They are saying that they have been living in this area for a very long time and no notice was served to these people before the demolition drive started.
तो उस चीज के लिए हमें कोई भी नोटिस की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती.
Lawyers representing petitioner Jamaat-e-Ulema-e-Hind, who had filed a plea against illegal demolitions across India, appealed to the Chief Justice of India's bench, asking for an urgent hearing in a bid to stop the demolitions. At 10:45, the Supreme Court ordered status quo and halted the demolition. But the demolitions did not stop.
Despite the Supreme Court order of staying the demolition, we can show you right now live that right now demolition has again started.
ये DDA से अलॉटमेंट की दुकान थी, 1977 में अलॉटमेंट हुई थी, लेकिन कागज देखने का कोई राजी नहीं हुआ.
Municipal officials' defense was that they were yet to receive the hard copy of the court order. In the meantime, push carts used by low-income vendors, tin shacks, a fruit juice stall, bike repair shop, shop of electric goods. And perhaps most controversially, this, a part of the entrance to the local masjid, which was at the center of last Saturday's violence. That's when a procession for Hanuman Jayanti was taken out despite having no police permission.
Where I'm standing, there is a lot of crowd. This mosque had a gate here, which has been removed by the MCD bulldozers.
Today, the police stood on guard in large numbers while the BJP-led municipality bulldozers went to work.
माहौल शांतिपूर्ण है, पीस एंड ट्रैंक्विलिटी है और कानून व्यवस्था काबू में है. लोगों से हम संपर्क में हैं और जैसे ही हमारे पास ये आदेश जैसे ही हमारे पास निर्गत हमारे पास आया है, हमने एनक्रोचमेंट ड्राइव रुकवाया है.
At 12 p.m., CPM leader Brinda Karat arrived, waving the papers, demanding the MCD to stop the demolition.
I'm here to ensure that already the law has been bulldozed, constitution has been bulldozed by illegal demolitions. At least the Supreme Court and its order should not be bulldozed.
It was only after CPIM leader reached the demolition site with a copy of court order the demolition was halted. Shortly after 12, the lawyer once again appealed to the Chief Justice to urgently instruct court officials, saying that the demolitions were on despite the order. The Chief Justice responded that they were communicating to the North Delhi Mayor through the court officials. At 12:30 p.m., the demolitions finally stopped, almost 2 hours after the court order. While the Supreme Court's immediate intervention prevented further demolition, this wasn't possible in earlier cases in other states. However, the court will be hearing a petition as punitive action against those accused in clashes, allegedly without the due process of law. With Sukirti Dwivedi, Saurabh Shukla and Akshay Dongre, Usama Shah for NDTV.
Illegal encroachments or revenge politics, the fact remains that it is the poorest of the poor who have no access to any compensation, any legal recourse, who are the victims of these kind of demolitions. Let's go across to Akshay and Sukirti. Akshay, describe to us, because you were there throughout these demolitions this morning, what it's like for a family which sees its shop torn down in front of it or its home torn down in front of it.
Well, Sonia, right now I'm sitting in the debris of one of those shops that was owned by Mr. Ganesh Gupta, who owned this shop since 1977. If we look at Jahangirpuri area, it looks like a battleground. There are hundreds of CRPF personnel of Rapid Action Force as well as Delhi Police. We'll try and speak to Mr. Ganesh Gupta, who is devastated by this loss. Ganesh ji, जब आपके पास कागज थे आप बता रहे हैं, हुआ क्या?
हुआ ये कि वो आए, पहले भी अतिक्रमण हटाने आते थे, कागज देखते थे, चले जाते थे. आज ऐसा हुआ हमारी दुकान डीडीए ने अलॉटमेंट किया हुआ है 1977 में। ऐसी 13 दुकानें हैं जो कि एक मेरी भी जिसमें से है। तो आए, मैंने कागज़ लेके आया, दिखाने के लिए कोशिश कर रहा हूँ। फ्रंट पर कोई अफसर नहीं है। मैं बुलडोजर वाले से बोल रहा हूँ, भाई अपने अफसर को बुलाओ, दिखाओ, कागज़ दिखो पहले।
तोड़ते चले गए तो कितना नुकसान हुआ आपका?
ये कम से कम 5 लाख का नुकसान है।
तो कैसे अब रिकवर करेंगे?
अब कार बेरोजगार हो गए, रिकवर कहाँ से करेंगे, कैसे करेंगे? लास्ट हो यही है, कोर्ट जाएंगे, कोर्ट में इसकी करेंगे।
तो कोई सुनवाई नहीं हुई? लेकिन
कोई सुनवाई नहीं हुई, यहाँ तक कि मैंने कहा कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट का गाइडलाइन आ गया है, डोमिनेशन रोकिए, फिर भी कोई सुनने को तैयार नहीं।
Despite Mr. Ganesh Gupta telling the officials of the North MCD that the Supreme Court has halted the demolition, they still went ahead with it. So that is in fact the most mindless part of this demolition that happened today in the Jahangirpuri area. Sonia?
Because of course the Delhi BJP chief tweeted just the night before saying that stone pelters' properties should be targeted. So what is Mr. Gupta ji saying to this accusation? Because of course we've seen that really people across all communities are being impacted by this, and also that none of them got notices or warnings, despite the fact that the MCD laws actually say that there must be, the NHRC has said this, that they must give a notice and they can go to court to stay this demolitions.
Absolutely. Let's take that question to Mr. Gupta. Gupta जी, एक बात बताइएगा, जैसे एक बीजेपी के जो आदेश गुप्ता है, जो बीजेपी के हेड है, उन्होंने कहा जो दंगाइयों के ये तोड़ने चाहिए। आपका क्या रोल था? लेकिन
हमारा कोई रोल नहीं, कोई क्रिमिनल रिकॉर्ड नहीं, कोई दंगाई में नाम नहीं। हम तो जिस दिन दंगा हुआ शाम को ही दुकान बंद करके अपने घर चले गए थे। उस दिन से दुकान बंद पड़ी हुई थी। आज वो न्यूज़ में देखा कि आज वो लोग आ रहे हैं, तो हम भी कागज़ वगज लेके आ गए, कि क्योंकि हर बार कैमरा हटाते थे, कागज़ मांगते थे, दिखा देता था, चले जाते थे। इस बार तो ऑन द स्पॉट कोई अफसर ही पीछे पीछे उधर उधर घूम रहे हैं। आवाज़ लगा रहा हूँ, कोई अफसर
ने आपकी बात सुनी? फिर
कोई किसी ने अफसर नहीं सुनी, और डेमोलेशन लास्ट में करके इसको निकल गए।
जितने लोगों के घर तोड़े गए, क्या उनमें से कोई दंगाई थे जो उनकी झुग्गियाँ तोड़ी गई है यहाँ पर?
कोई दंगाइयों की नहीं तोड़ी गई है, ये आम पब्लिक की तोड़ी गई है, चाहे हिंदू हो चाहे मुसलमान। कोई दंगाई की नहीं हुआ। यहाँ तक कि ग्रीन पट्टी तोड़ने आए थे, ये कोई ग्रीन पट्टी नहीं तोड़े हैं।
जी जी। So this is, you heard Mr. Gupta, Sonia, he's saying only the innocent suffered today.
Only the armed public. The public has suffered today. This is not about rioters. So Kirti, over to you, because the Supreme Court, of course, will hear this case tomorrow. And you're now in an area right next to a mosque, which has been cordoned off because Mr. Owaisi arrived here. He and Brinda Karat are the only politicians to visit this area. What is it like there? Because, of course, there's a sense of fear that their argument is that they're being selectively targeted, plus, of course, that they're extremely poor.
Well, yes, Sonia. So we are on the side of Jahangirpuri, the C block, where the mosque is on the right-hand side, where my camera person will just pan and show you that white minars there that you see are of the main mosque. But this entire access to this entire lane has been completely blocked off by the Delhi police and the paramilitary personnel that are placed here. Also, there is a sense of a very eerie calm here in the locality right now, because if you see all of these shops shut, in front of them all the debris, all of this is the debris of the demolition that took place over here in the morning. These are all the belongings of the people here, many of their stacked clothes. On the other side there are all of these wrappers. Many of them had pan masala shops here, small juice shops over here, all of them taken down completely today in the demolition. And outside all of these shops and houses, Delhi police personnel have been deployed, and that is why out of any of these houses you will not see anybody moving out or anybody else being let in inside these houses at this point of time. So not a single person. These are very densely populated areas, but the kind of tension that has unfolded here since morning today, ever since the demolition took place, that has led to this absolute silence now. Nobody stepping out of their houses, nobody coming out. All that you see along this lane is the police and security deployment, which only got heightened after the news came out that Mr. Owaisi is arriving here. So it was completely ensured that he does not get access to this lane at all.
In fact, I think perhaps what's most moving is what you're showing us on the scattered there on the road tonight. I mean, these are people's belongings, these are people's clothes, these are people's who have very few belongings. That's all they have, and that's just been thrown on the road. Who's going to compensate them for the bulldozers that went on even after a Supreme Court order? Let's just look at the stories of the pan sellers, the juice vendors, the people who the MCD says were kabari, who they decided to just wake up today and demolish without notice.
"43-year-old Sajid Saifi is trying to pick up the pieces of his life. He has had this electric goods shop at the Jahangirpuri Jama Masjid since 1985. In today's demolition drive, parts of it have been broken. Saifi earns about 30,000 rupees a month, is the sole breadwinner and has 4 kids.
2 मिनट का भी टाइम देते तो जो कीमती सामान था वो ले लेते। उसको तो बिल्कुल ऐसे तहस-नहस कर दिया, वो किसी काम का ही नहीं रहा। अभी प्रशासन से कोई उम्मीद नहीं है, हर दिन नए कानून आ रहे हैं। 16 तारीख से सब यहाँ पीछे डरे रहते हैं। किसके बच्चे को उठा रहे हैं, किसी को बच्चे को वो ना लगा दे पत्थर के केस में।
40-year-old Jamila and her husband 45-year-old Hussain have been running their pan shop for the last 20 years. They say they've lost everything now.
पहले से बोल देता तो हम इतना नुकसान जानबूझ के करवाते 50,000 रुपए हम लोगों का मायने होता। अमीर लोगों का 50-60 हज़ार रुपए कोई कुछ नहीं है, एक दिन का खर्चा और हमारा सालों का खर्चा है।
38-year-old Ashu's bike repair shop has been here for 17 years, but now it's demolished. He says he was not even in the area on the day of the riots, but is paying the price.
2 बच्चे हैं, 12-13 हज़ार महीना हो जाता है जैसे तैसे। अब जो 3-4 दिन यहाँ पे देखभाली करनी पड़ेगी, नहीं तो सब उठा के ले जाएंगे कि इतना पैसा है नहीं जो हाथों हाथ शटर लगवा ले हम। सारी गाड़ी वाड़ी सब तोड़ दिए, ये सब बुलडोजर मार के वो गाड़ी तोड़ दी है। बुलडोजर वहाँ ये ग्राहकों की गाड़ी है, लेकिन ग्राहक तो सब्र नहीं करेगा, उन्हें तो काम करके देना पड़ेगा, अपनी जेब से पैसा लगा के उधार कर्जा करके करना पड़ेगा।
यहाँ पर जितनी दुकानें तोड़ी गई हैं, इनका आरोपियों से दंगे कि कोई आपका कनेक्शन है या और दुकानदारों का?
किसी का कोई कनेक्शन नहीं है, और पहली बात तो मैं उस दिन यहाँ था ही नहीं बिल्कुल।
50-year-old Raman Jha's pan masala cart was demolished and all his stuff taken away by the demolition team. He earned barely 6,000 rupees a month.
दुकान को बुलडोजर से ऊपर से तोड़ के उसको चकनाचूर करके गाड़ी में ले गए भर के। मेरी पान की दुकान थी।
कब से चला रहे थे पान की दुकान?
34 साल के आसपास हो गए।
34 साल की दुकान हो गए।
पहले मंथली जाता था,
पैसा
पहले थाना में जाता था। अब क्या करेंगे, देखते हैं कि अब यहाँ तो लगने देंगे कि नहीं देंगे, कहाँ जाएं, यही सोच के दिमाग आउट हो।
The politics over the Jahangirpuri clashes and the demolition will continue, but for those who've lost out on all their hard-earned money, life has come to a standstill. In New Delhi with camera person Sachin Gupta, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
So the Home Minister Amit Shah today summoned Delhi BJP leaders to his office at North Block. He had a 1-hour-long meeting. None of them spoke after they came out of the meeting, but apparently the Home Minister asked why the situation in Delhi had escalated to this stage. Interestingly, while the opposition has attacked the BJP, the only people who actually went today at the time of the demolitions, the only opposition leader was Brinda Karat, the CPIM. The Congress gave bites and Rahul Gandhi tweeted. And of course, AAP had very strong press conferences, but nobody actually went to Jahangirpuri.
अगर देश में ये गुंडई, ये लफंगई बंद करनी है, तो इसका सबसे सरल और सबसे बढ़िया तरीका है बीजेपी के हेडक्वार्टर में बुलडोजर चलाना।
इतनी खतरनाक पॉलिटिक्स चल रही है देश के अंदर, उसको पूरे देशवासियों को, नौजवानों को विशेष रूप से समझना पड़ेगा सच्चाई क्या है। खाली धर्म के नाम पे आप अगर हम लोग बिल्कुल एक तरफ सोचने लग जाएंगे तो वो देश हित में नहीं होगा।
और सुप्रीम कोर्ट का टाइमली स्टेटस को है, वरना तो बर्बाद हो गया। अभी तो कितने दुकानों को तोड़ दिया आपने। सवाल ये पैदा होता है कि 6-7 साल से आपकी सरकार है, जब तक आपने क्यों नहीं तोड़ा, नोटिस क्यों नहीं दिया? और अफसोस की बात यह है कि आप पार्टी, सुनिए, आप पार्टी इन तमाम लोगों को कह रही रोहिंग्या बांग्लादेशी।
Meanwhile, a quick look at other news. Well, strategist Prashant Kishor has now made his presentation to two Congress chief ministers who joined a panel today, which are brainstorming over whether Prashant Kishor should actually become part of the Congress party or take on a key role as he gives his presentation on where he sees the Congress strategy for 2024. A decision on Prashant Kishor is likely to be taken very soon by Sonia Gandhi, likely in the next 72 hours. Interestingly, Rahul Gandhi is not at any of the meetings with Prashant Kishor and this Congress committee. The Congress has refused to confirm if he's travelling or why he wasn't at these meetings. But meanwhile, after this, an indication that the Congress PK deal is almost sealed, the Rajasthan Chief Minister called Prashant Kishor a brand.
हर व्यक्ति का अनुभव काम लेना चाहिए, विपक्ष को भी, बल्कि सत्ता वाली पार्टी भी काम लेती है अपने तरीके से। तो ये कोई बहुत ऐसा नहीं पहली बार ही हो रहा है। हम लोग भी लगातार जो ऐसी एजेंसियां हैं या जो ऐसे एक्सपर्ट हैं उनकी राय लेते रहते हैं। तो पीके का नाम बड़ा हो गया तो वो चर्चा में आ गया, बस इतना मैं मानता हूँ।
Well, let's move to the other big headline, and that's the news on COVID. Well, India currently reporting over 2,000 new COVID cases. The deaths are also up at 40. So let's just look at those numbers. Cases up by 65.8%. Deaths up at 3,900%. Positivity is now 0.49%. And tests are also up at over 4,21,000. But let's just look at what's actually making up those cases. The highest is coming from Delhi. That's 1,009 cases. It's crossed 1,000 cases in the last 24 hours. Kerala is second at 488 cases, followed by Haryana at 249, then Uttar Pradesh at 159 and Maharashtra at 137. Well, COVID deaths again are high at 40, but the reason apparently is because Kerala has added 32 backlog deaths. So actually, it adds up to 8 in the last 24 hours. But what is worrying is how many backlog deaths Kerala is actually reporting. So Kerala is 34 deaths, of which 32 are backlog, 2 in the last 24 hours, followed by Maharashtra 3, UP at 1, and Mizoram and Nagaland with 1 each. So deaths are rising. We need to keep a watch on that. So Delhi has announced it will make masks mandatory in public spaces. The fine of 500 rupees is back if you don't wear a mask. However, at a DDMA meeting today, which includes the Lieutenant Governor and the Chief Minister, it is decided that schools will remain open despite higher cases. Guidelines will be issued, and if schools don't follow strict protocol, action will be taken. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister in Gujarat today, also with the World Health Organization chief, they're talking about the focus on a global center for traditional medicine, especially focusing on India's traditional medicines in Jamnagar, Gujarat. The Prime Minister also gave the WHO chief a Gujarati name, Tulsi Bhai, and also talked of the success of India-made vaccines.
आज जब सुबह मुझे मिले तो उन्होंने कहा देखो भाई मैं तो पक्का गुजराती हो गया हूं। तो उन्होंने मुझे कहा क्या मेरा नाम गुजराती रख लो। मेरे इस परम मित्र को गुजराती के नाते तुलसी भाई।
The Prime Minister's new name for the WHO chief, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, amidst a call for friendship and cooperation as the WHO chief spoke in Gujarati at 2 events to promote traditional medicine.
और इसलिए આ ભૂમિમાં આ વિનય ખુશી છે।
The Prime Minister also bringing up the achievement of Made in India vaccines in the presence of the WHO Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus.
उन्होंने कितना बड़ा कमाल करके दिखाया। कौन कल्पना कर सकता था कि इतनी जल्दी हम कोरोना की वैक्सीन विकसित कर पाएंगे। मेड इन इंडिया।
But the WHO has suspended the Made in India COVID-19 vaccine Covaxin supply through UN agencies after an inspection flagged issues relating to manufacturing. And it is also believed that the WHO will publish a report that estimates India's COVID death figures to be 4 times the official number, which has led to objections from India about the calculations according to reports. This is an election year in Gujarat, and the Prime Minister is pulling out all stops to showcase his home state to the world to bring in investment. From the multi-million-dollar WHO Global Center for Traditional Medicine in Jamnagar to the Global Ayush Investment and Innovation Summit in Gandhinagar, the Prime Minister wants to project Gujarat as a global hub for traditional medicine. However, no comment is expected on the other pending issues with the WHO. Shiv Sena MP Priyanka Chaturvedi hit out at the WHO, saying that 3 sentences in Gujarati and a visit to India is all it took to wash away the sins and culpability of Dr. WHO in safeguarding the interests of our neighbour, in an obvious reference to China and the pandemic.
Prime Minister Modi proposed that we jointly hold an annual international meeting on traditional medicine in Gujarat. So for traditional medicine, Gujarat will be a pilgrimage center, and that's what we see.
$250 million will be invested in the Global Center for Traditional Medicine. India will cover operational costs for the first 10 years.
Heal in India इस दशक का बहुत बड़ा ब्रांड बन सकता है। तो जो विदेशी नागरिक भारत में आकर आयुष चिकित्सा का लाभ लेना चाहते हैं, शीघ्र ही भारत एक विशेष आयुष वीजा कैटेगरी शुरू करने जा रही है।
As India and the WHO turn 75, the Prime Minister says India will herald in a golden age for traditional medicine. In Gandhinagar with camera person Rajendra Dayalkar, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.